All right, so again, you guys can go ahead and turn off your cameras now if you haven't already. Couple things before we get started is I wanted to talk to you about couple things. So one, and I will put it in the chat towards the end of class. Um, we are going to be having our parent meeting on Thursday at 6:30. So the parent meeting is going to basically be about the Japan trip. So if you are interested in going on the Japan trip, um, I will put the RSVP link. A lot of people have already signed up, so that's great. And we'll talk about like the details as far as pricing, how you can like different ways to help pay for it. So we'll talk about that on Thursday night. All you got to do is get your parents to go. So if you're interested in going to Japan in 2022, I am going to be bringing a bunch of Singer High kids, hopefully, to Japan. So that way we will get, new experiences for everybody. That's all the parent meeting is about. Yeah, it's just about the trip. So it'll be myself, Miss Sang, which she's from like down in like Southern California, Miss Ramirez. So those are going to be the other teachers from different schools who are also going on this trip. Um, they've had more experience with EF tours. I've never used EF tours before, but this is my first trip. So that I will be able to do that. And I will give the link towards the end of class. So like I said, at the end of class, I will put the link in. So yeah, I will give that link later. So don't worry about it right now. I will give you guys the opportunity. Also, yearbook photos, I'm still offering extra credit for people to do their yearbook photos. I need people to do it because if you don't do it this Friday, then my mission is going to be calling all the parents, which 400 students. Luckily, I have had a lot of people who have submitted their photos, so thank you. Just a reminder that it is not a selfie. It is somebody taking your picture from about 4 feet away, hopefully like with good lighting, so don't have like lights off. Try to do it in front of a blank wall because we will be photoshopping a background in behind you, so that way it looks more like a traditional portrait picture. So anyway, so Japan trip, I'll send the link at the end of class. And then the portrait pictures, please go get those to me as soon as possible. That way we can start photoshopping them and getting them into the book. So thank you on that. All right. So we are starting a new story this week. So first we read Seven Floors and we read Biafra. Then we did Harrison Bergeron, and then we did Creation Myths last week. So this week we're going to be reading a new story called Anne of Clay, and I'm going to be showing you guys a video really quick. So this is Amyra Sanchez. Probably a lot of you haven't heard of her. So the little girl Azucena in the book or in the story is based off of this real girl. So I'm going to play a video real quick. I'd have to get it set up.
The little things in life are easy to
So
take
I'm waiting for Ed.
like getting away from the kids for grown-up time.
Let's see.
Or getting away from the grown-ups for some kid time. Or just finding a private getaway that feels like home, but different.
Okay.
On November 13th.
Hold on, I don't think I shared computer audio. 1 second. Let's try it again. Okay, here we go.
On November 13th, 1985, the Nevado del Ruiz volcano erupted in Colombia. Pyroclastic flows exploding from the crater melted the mountain's ice caps, forming lahars, volcanic mud flows and debris flows, which cascaded into the river valleys below. One lahar, consisting of 3 pulses, did most of the damage. Traveling at 20 feet per second, the first pulse enveloped most of the town of Armero, killing up to 20,000 people. In total, 23,000 people were killed, and 13 villages in addition to Armero were destroyed. Since there had been no substantial eruption since 1845, officials dismissed safety and evacuation planning. To make things worse, Armero and many other villages were in the path of the volcano's destruction. 2 months before the main eruption, earthquakes and phreatic eruptions rocked the area around the volcano. and that's when officials finally began planning for evacuation. A hazard map was prepared in October, but the map was poorly distributed to those at highest risk. Many survivors had never heard of it, though several major newspapers had featured it. Amyra Sanchez and her family lived in Armero at the time of the eruption. On the night of the disaster, Amyra and her family were awake, worrying about the ashfall from the eruption, when they heard the sound of an approaching lahar. After it hit, Amyra became trapped under the concrete and debris of her home and could not free herself. When rescue teams tried to help her, they realized her legs were trapped under the house's roof. Sanchez was immobilized from the waist down, but her upper body was free of the concrete and mud. For the first few hours after the mud flow hit, she was covered by concrete, but managed to get her hand through a crack in the debris. After a rescuer noticed her hand protruding from a pile of debris, he and others cleared tiles and wood over the course of a day. Once the girl was freed from the waist up, her rescuers attempted to pull her out, but found the task impossible without breaking her legs in the process. Each time a person pulled her, the water pooled around her, rising so that it seemed she would drown if they let her go, so rescue workers placed a tire around her body to keep her afloat. Divers discovered Sanchez's legs were caught under a door made of bricks, with her aunt's arms clutched tightly around her legs and feet. Despite her predicament, Sanchez remained relatively positive. She sang to a journalist who was working as a volunteer, asked for sweet food, drank soda, and agreed to be interviewed. At times she was scared and prayed or cried. On the third night, Sanchez began hallucinating, saying she did not want to be late for school and mentioned a math exam. Near the end of her life, Sanchez's eyes reddened, her face swelled, and her hands whitened. At one point, she asked the people to leave her so they could rest. Hours later, the workers returned with a pump and tried to save her, but her legs were bent under the concrete as if she was kneeling, and it was impossible to free her without severing her legs. Lacking the surgical equipment to save her from the effects of an amputation, the doctors present agreed that it would be more humane to let her die. Sanchez suffered for nearly 3 nights before she died on the morning of November 16th from exposure, most likely from gangrene or hypothermia. Amyra's brother and mother survived. Her father and sister did not. Her mother expressed her feelings about Amyra's death. "It is horrible, but we have to think about the living. I will live for my son, who only lost a toe."
Okay, so I'm just opening back the presentation again. So yeah, so that was Amyra Sanchez. So this happened in the mid 80s in Colombia, and hold on a second, in Armero. So the story that we're going to be reading is based off of that. So the story that we're reading is called "And of Clay Are We Created?" and it's part of a series that follows the same characters. We won't be reading the rest of the series. This is probably the most famous of the series. But this is this particular story is historical fiction, which means that it's based off of something that really happened. So Amyra Sanchez, the volcano that happened, there was really a reporter who was on the scene who talked with her and tried to help her. So all those things are real. The only difference is like the characters' names are different. The like what was talked about between the characters were different. So there's just more things that are just to be more dramatic for one, to make the story more interesting. But also it goes along with the purpose and it builds like a message that the author is wanting to have. So historical fiction is anytime you have like a real life event or a time period that's real, and you put fictionalized characters within that real time period. So it is told from the first person point of view. So you'll see lots of I's and we and us and stuff like that. So it is told from the point of view, not of the main character, actually, which is kind of interesting. You would think that the first person point of view would automatically make the narrator the main character, but it's not in this case. So the main character is Rolf Carlet. So he's a reporter. He's the main character, but it's told from his girlfriend's perspective. So whenever you see like I and we and us, it's actually his girlfriend who's going to be talking about um, her and her relationship with him and like what she sees. So we'll talk more about that after we read it. So what we're going to be doing today is we are going to be reading the story and answering the questions. So you will answer the questions in the audio file of the video. So on Canvas, I made Mr. Norris made a audiobook just like he did with Harrison Bergeron. So he made it was him and Miss Baird made. So actually, Miss Baird, she's the narrator. So she'll be like the girlfriend most of the time. She'll be the one who is reading that point of view, and then he reads like the dialogue from the reporter. So anyways, yes, if you were marked absent and you like got here a little after 8:45, I will switch it. Just remind me at the end of class, because right now I'm not going to stop necessarily to fix that right now, but I will fix it in just a little bit. So we are going to be reading the story and, like I said, answering the questions. There are, I believe, 17 questions. So he made the video, I created questions for it. That way, just we're doing this instead of annotation. So instead of annotating End of Clay this week, just because I wanted to mix it up, I didn't want it to be the same thing every time we read a story. But the questions are meant to help you understand what's happening in the story. It's meant to help you with what we're going to be doing Thursday, the brief write that we're going to be writing about the story next week. So if you do it, as long as you are answering the questions, and you can only do one attempt, it technically will allow you to do multiple attempts, but I will only grade the first attempt. So yeah, you can only do it one time. So make sure that you're being careful. You can look at the text. So you're going to go to this week's module in Canvas, so 1019 to 1023, week 9. Open the assignment called End of Clay Reading Guide. Read the document as you listen to it, just because it's always better to read something and hear something at the same time. It definitely increases your comprehension and your retention of the story, so how much you remember. Answer the questions in the video as you get through the story. It should automatically pause you when it comes to a question. So once the dialogue stops talking, you'll know to go and respond to it. So I'm going to go ahead and again change my screen so I can show you what it looks like. All right, so Canvas, End of Clay Reading Guide. So you're going to, again, have this. So you are going to click on Get Started. You're going to play. Again, below. Let's see. I put the wrong file in here. Hold on a second. All right, so I'm going to have to find the different file. All right, so this should be all you need right there. There we go. That should be the right version. All right, but anyway, so yeah, you're going to answer these questions. It's 24 minutes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to split you off into breakout rooms. So you guys will be working on this independently. If you need help, do the raise help thing, but you're not going to be leaving until you are done with the quiz. The quiz being the reading guide. So basically you just answering the questions. All the questions are multiple choice. As long as you're listening and reading it, you should have no problem answering these questions, just to make sure that you're understanding the story.